Today we're going to be reviewing both the Challenge and Champions Cups. So we're going to have a look at some of the stats. So who was the top point scorer, who was the top try scorer. I've got the biggest score lines. I also figured out the average score for both Champions and Challenge. It might interest you, that one. And then I've also got some of my opinions, so who I think were the biggest overachievers, who I thought were the biggest underachievers, and I've also gotten the shock result, so the result that I thought was the most shocking. So we're going to start off with the champions and have a look from there. So the Champions Cup finished yesterday. As you probably know, the win, I suppose, went to La Rochelle. It's their second title, second in a row as well. Same final as well, La Rochelle versus Leinster. La Rochelle won both, so interesting there. So I've got who I thought the biggest overachievers, the team that exceeded expectations the most. I've gone with Ospreys. From qualifying through the URC Shields, which is being scrapped because it's not a full representation of the best teams in the league. You know, Ospreys, they came like, I think they were like ninth, but yet still got Champions Cup when top 8 are only meant to. So they went in, no one really expected anything from them. They came fifth in the pool and got through to the round of 16, which no one expected. You know, they won 3 out of their 4 games, which I think is incredible from them. Biggest underachievers from the champions, I've gone with Racing 92, a team that I hold to a high level. They've got some superstars, great team, but they were rubbish this season. They lost 3 out of their 4 games, and the game they won was by 1 point over Harlequins. So it's not as if they even smashed someone to make up for it. Really poor season. I don't know. I think they were near the top of the top 14, so it's only Europe they've really been poor in. Yeah, really interestingly poor from Racing. We'll have to see if it becomes a trend or that, because they dropped out at the challenge and then instantly got knocked out of the challenge in the first round as well. No idea why. I would have thought, oh, they've dropped the challenge, they'll go and win that. Nope. Anyway, shock result. I've gone with Leicester 26, Ospreys 27. What a game that was. I believe, was it a last minute try Ospreys scored? Yeah, a last minute try scored by Jack Morgan for Ospreys to win them the game, which I thought was the biggest shock. Leicester obviously are still, for now till next weekend, reigning English champions, and they were beaten by Ospreys, who I suppose until this season were reigning Welsh champions, but you know, Wales don't have their own league. So we're going to go over some of the stats now from the champions. So the top scorer was Anthony Hastoy from La Rochelle. Top try scorer was Van der Flair from Leinster. And all the team stats, the best teams stats-wise, were kind of dominated by both Leinster and Toulouse. Not La Rochelle, which is interesting. The biggest scoreline in the Champions Cup was the round of 16 game versus Sharks and Munster. Between them, there was a total of 85 points scored. That game ended 50 points to 35 in favour of the Sharks. And the biggest win was Leinster beating Gloucester 57-0. Now here's the one that I spent a while trying to figure out. The average score, now I have rounded it up, rounded them both to the nearest whole number, because obviously they were like decimal points, you can't get a decimal point score, so I just rounded them. The average score in the Champions Cup is 28-21 to the home team this season, which I think is really interesting, you know. Quite tight, you know, what, to be fair, you'd kind of expect from what's meant to be the best teams in Europe and South Africa. But yeah, still really interesting, the fact that 7 points is usually the deficit when there's, you know, I suppose that's right, but you know. Anyway, that's the Champions Cup done. I can see if you're still here, probably you're just going to disappear now because Don't know why, but less people care about the challenge, which I find interesting because I like it. I think it's different style. The champions is the best of the best. The challenge is usually, it can turn into one or two big teams who maybe had a poor season last time, kind of run rampage, but still. So again, we're going to kind of do the same thing. Look at biggest over and underachievers, shock result, top scorers, and then I have the average score in that as well again. So stay to the end for that. So the challenge was obviously won by Toulon. It was their first title, beating Glasgow. Now, the biggest overachievers for the challenge, I've put Benetton, who, again, had a brilliant season in both Europe and the URC, making the semi-final. Sorry, there was someone at the door. Now, where was I? Benetton, yes, Benetton, brilliant season. Obviously made the semi-finals. Now, they did get beat, was it 23-0, 24-0 by Toulon, but still, the Italians had a great season in the URC, and, I thought they'd make knockouts. I didn't think they'd make the semi-finals. So there we go. The biggest underachievers, I've put Bath. Now, to be fair, they did have a very poor start to the season. And towards the end, they have clawed it back, and I think they actually managed to qualify for the Champions Cup. Don't quote me on that, might be wrong, but I think they managed to squeeze Champions Cup right at the end through the English Premiership. But no, poor stuff from Bath. I don't think they won a game. The best result they had, I'm pretty sure, was a draw to Glasgow. Which, for a team who's meant to be in the top half of English rugby this season, isn't particularly great, is it? I'm half off because I'm just checking that I'm right with Bath. Yeah, didn't win a game. Best result was the draw with Glasgow. That's poor. That's poor. So yeah, you can see I've done that now. Shock result. There was a few surprises, but I've decided to go with Benetton 41, Connacht 19. Now, I suspect Connacht probably didn't field a full strength team. I'm not 100% sure. But Benetton beating Connacht, it would be a shock, but it wouldn't be a massive shock. But the fact that they beat them by 22 points, if someone told me Benetton beat Connacht, I'd think, oh, maybe by a couple of points. But no, 22 points, domination, really there. Not many teams could put 40 points on Connacht. Yeah. Again, another reason why Benetton's had a brilliant season. Now, the top point scorer, was Sam Coateslaw from Scarlets with 62. The top try scorer is Johnny Matthews from Glasgow with 7. And now 5 of those tries are from one game, which I thought was incredible. That was a brilliant game. I will cover that game in a minute. But again, the team stats are dominated by 2 teams in Glasgow and Scarlets. Nothing really surprising there. I mean, Toulon get 1 or 2, but really, majority of them are Glasgow or Scarlets. Now, the biggest scoreline for this game, listen to this. This is a round of 16 game. Glasgow 73, Dragons 33. 106 points scored. That was the game that Johnny Matthews got 5 tries. That was a brilliant game. Great peak entertainment that game was. Maybe not, that great if you were a Dragons supporter. I'm going to be honest, but, really high scoring game. Now, the biggest win wasn't actually that, because that win was only 40 points. The biggest win was Connacht 61, Brive 5. Again, just another reason why Benetton's win over Connacht was incredible, because Connacht, didn't just take not that seriously. They did pull off some big wins themselves. So it's not as if Connacht were being a push about the challenge. Now here's the next one. The average score, again I've rounded this to the nearest whole number, is 26-22 to the home team. So not quite as, they were about the same score-wise. Challenge is just a bit tighter, which is interesting. You know, it is, because when I think of the challenge, I think, oh, there's a massive range. There's more of a range in the challenge. You've got the teams who get hammered every season. You've got the teams like Breathe and that who get absolutely smacked up. They got 61-5 to Connacht. Mind you, Leinster did smash Gloucester as well. But I feel like the Challenge Cup had more high results. The biggest scoreline in the Challenge had more than 30 points more than the biggest scoreline in the Champions. However, that was a slight one-off. So, yeah, not 30, 20 points. I can't do maths. Yeah, interesting there. So, yeah, that game, Challenge usually had a 4-point difference. Champions usually had a 7-point difference. Say what you might. Yeah, let me know what you think of it. I thought it was a brilliant season for European rugby, personally. Let me know what you think. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to smash the subscribe. I want to see hit it harder than Cheslin Colby was hitting Glasgow. Yeah, and I'll see you later.